This episode of Hoochos is brought to you by Squarespace.
Welcome back to Hoochos. Today on Hoochos, we're going to be looking at the dragon fruit and float box hydroponic systems, the root vegetable hydroponic system, the citrus and macadamia hydroponic systems, a full hydroponic potato harvest, and the Dutch bucket, strawberry, hooch bucket, NFT, and round pipe rain gutter grow system, as well as we'll take a look at the hydroponic wasabi. So I'll leave timestamps in the description so you can jump around if you're not particularly interested in one of those systems, and that way I don't waste anyone's time. But I'm going to start on the outside and work my way in. So I actually put this 3,000 litre water tank in place in the last update video, and since then I've installed guttering that collects all the rainwater from the roof of the greenhouse and funnels it down through this PVC pipe and into my rainwater tank, which I can now use to refill my hydroponic systems when it becomes time to top up the nutrient. Actually, the night I installed this system, it absolutely bucketed down and started to fill the tank immediately. So I was really happy with that. I installed it in the nick of time and that never happened. The reason it did bucket down though isn't because I had this gutter installed and the tank ready to go. It was because of this system here. Now, if you haven't seen the video, I'll put a link here, but in that video, I explicitly said that I wasn't worried about rain in this system. Now, before we have a look at what the rain's done to this system, you might notice that I've got netting over it. Now, I actually had to install the netting because in this area we have hares and they just love fresh growth. And because it's been so dry before all the rain, they were just eating anything they could get their hands on. I actually came out a couple days after I'd made this system and it had been decimated. So I replaced all of the seedlings that had been destroyed by the hares cropping the tops off them. I was actually planning on using them for another system, but luckily I had backups and I had to come up with a way of protecting it from the hares. So I decided to go with insect netting with one star picket at each end and some stainless steel wire between the star pickets, and then I just draped the insect netting over the top of this system. So let's pull it back and I'll give you a look at how these plants are going. And will you look at those plants? We've got watermelon, rock melon, a heap of zucchini throughout the middle, and at the back we've got the pumpkins and some squash, I think. So this has actually been protecting these plants from the hares at night. I will start pulling it back so I can get pollinators on the flowers during the day and then putting it back over at night. This will just save me from having to hand pollinate the flowers. But these plants have been doing extremely well. I've been really happy with how they're performing, especially with all the rain we've been having. A slightly lighter shade of green than I particularly like, and that's purely because of the dilution of the nutrient. Now you can see here that the bed is almost full. So let's measure the EC in this bed and then we'll have a look at whether we need to top up the nutrient, or I can siphon it out and I can refill it with full strength nutrient. Okay, so let's have a look at the EC of this. So the EC is actually 1.9. Now that's come down from 2.4. I'm not really worried about that. That is absolutely okay with me. I'm gonna leave it rather than drain it out. I might siphon out so that the level of the water is below the rocks so I don't get any algal growth. But other than that, I'm okay with that level of EC. Now let's have a look at the pH, 6.7. I'm fine with that as well. So we've had a heap of rain. I'd say we've had about 30 or 40 mils of rain, which is extremely out of character for our area. So I'm not particularly worried about this system, as I said, in the long run. And if the worst that's going to happen is that a few times a year my EC is going to drop from 2.4 to 1.9, I'm not particularly worried. The dragon fruit system. Now these guys have only just started taking off, and it was ever since we got a little bit of rain, I kind of just didn't water them at all because people said that they thrive on neglect. But I found that a little bit of water has actually caused them to explode. There's a heap of new growth on pretty much all of them except for some of the smaller ones. They're not all putting out those, are they called pups? But the majority of them are. Some of them are only now just starting to put them out, really small pups, but it's super exciting stuff. Some of them have multiple pups. I'm probably gonna have to make the choice of which pup I keep because I want a single stem coming up and then branching out into multiple stems so it's easier to manage on my behalf. With this system, all I've been doing is topping up the nutrient by hand in the rain gutters below, and that's just been wicking up. I have done, I think, 1 or 2 top waters with nutrient just after the rains, so I can be sure that there's still nutrient in the cocoa and hasn't all been washed out. And then once these guys make their way all the way to the top and start fruiting, that's when I'll connect up the rain gutters with floats and have them automatically topping up, so that as they use up the nutrient and water within those pots, I no longer have to monitor them. And here's the root vegetable system. So at the front, we've got spring onions, we've got some red onion as well. We've got beetroot just behind those. We've got the shallots, and back here, again, I was having problems with rabbits eating. These are choho raspberries. I've put the netting around them and it's stopped the problem. At the front, we've also got the turmeric that hasn't come through, but down here, we've got ginger, and it's finally pushing out shoots, which I'm really happy about. We're going to do an episode on ginger very shortly. I've got some rhizomes inside, and we're going to look at putting them into a brand new hydroponic system design that I've come up with. While we're here, let's have a look at these radish. So I'm going to select one of the larger ones, and I'll see what we've got. Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, I'll just pull that out. That is a hydroponic radish. How cool. Another one. Root vegetables in hydroponics. How cool. Look at that. So yeah, this is just a cocoa perlite substrate. So no soil, just cocoa perlite and hydroponic nutrient wicking up from the rain gutter grow system. While we're here, let's do a full harvest on the potato system, because it started right back and I want to get those potatoes out. I'll grab a wheelbarrow, we'll get rid of this mulch and see what we've got. So I'm going to remove all this mulch. I'm going to do my best to leave the potatoes down in the grow media so I can show you what it looks like. I've actually hurt my back recently. That's why I haven't been doing larger builds. I've just been taking it easy. So I'm just gonna get a pitchfork for this one. Yeah, so on that float box hydroponic system, because the bags were so heavy, I was just doing too much shoveling of the stones and lifting of those grow bags, and it definitely hurt my lower back. So I'm gonna try and not do that again. So I'm just gonna remove this top part. Now this is pretty exciting. I'm just moving away all the mulch, and look at all those potatoes. That's what it looks like underneath the mulch. I'm gonna go pull back the rest of the mulch, and we're gonna collect up all the potatoes and weigh them. All right, now that I've got most of the mulch off the top, I'm just gonna go through and collect all the potatoes. Then we can weigh them up. So there are a few rotten ones. Okay, so I've been through all of the cocoa, and I've got almost an entire 20-litre bucket full of potatoes. I'm now gonna wash them, and then we can weigh them. No scrubbing here. Look at that. So easy. All right, so I've weighed the bucket. The bucket weighs about 800 grams, 10.5 kilos. So if we add on our 2 kilos from our other harvest, just under 12 kilos of potato from 2 square meters. If I hadn't had a few rotted ones, I'd definitely be over that if I hadn't left them in the system so long. Very nice. So this is the hydroponic orchard. We've got the macas, 2 types of lime, Tahitian and Kaffir. We've got the lemonade tree, and we've got the Villafranca lemon, as well as the Eureka lemon. It's all doing really well. This lime especially, the ones that have been in the system for about a year now, are just exploding with growth. So I'm super happy with how this system's performing, and before long, I should have enough lemons to make my own whiskey sours. So as we head into the greenhouse, we have the Dutch bucket system. So I actually had a problem the other night. I noticed, well, that's not right. And none of the other parts of the plant's drooping, but there's also, this is really dry. And if you go along, it's really dry in all of them. And that's a worry. So I turned on the pump. You can tell it's on right now. Turn it off. Turn it on. So this is literally a pump failure. Pull the pump out of the water. Completely disassembled it. And you can see the impeller, it's working, but the impeller inside is not. So that means the pump's, well, it's stuffed. This is the AP1050. And I'm gonna replace it with the, well, that one started spinning now. So that'll actually start working now, but I just don't trust it again. So I'm gonna replace it. God. So 1050 is the amount of liters it pumps. One hand I have, this is the AP750LV. Now, the problem I found with these pumps is, because it's low voltage, it has an extra connector, and the extra connector can just not connect sometimes. But we'll give it a go for the time being. I mean, that's gonna work now. There's so many frogs in here. One down there, one actually behind the pump in there. I just don't want it to stop working again like it just did. I've got that pump pumping again. It's working. So thankfully I sorted that out and I've replaced the large 1050 pump with another 1050 pump. Let's head further into the greenhouse, and we've got our round pipe rain gutter grow system. This system is amazing. I don't touch it. I had a few problems with the floats getting clogged, but that was because of the type of float I was using. There's two types of float. One is more prone to clogging up, so I just switched it over to the float style that isn't prone to clogging up. They both look exactly the same, but one will give you more flow through, whereas the other just has a pin prick at the end and it gets clogged really easily. They're in full fruit. There's no fruit on them right now, but before I took the fruit off, I'd shot some B-roll and we've got really nice tomatoes coming through. The truss tomatoes are the ones that are ripening first. They're absolutely enormous. Because I hurt my back, I have let the greenhouse go a little, and I'm meaning to come in and drop these down and move them across. But the growth on them is phenomenal and I'm really happy with it, even if it's getting out of hand. I'm gonna come through and do some maintenance on these tomorrow after I've edited and uploaded this video. The super simple strawberry system below here is doing really well as well. I've had some powdery mildew on it, so I've treated that with mancozeb, which is an antifungal and a sulfur. The small pot size hasn't really affected them so far, and they're flowering and fruiting as I speak. So these Dutch buckets are the Thunder F1 variety, and they're in full flower right now. These are self-pollinating, so I don't need to pollinate them. I have actually had some problems with the pollination, not of the truss tomatoes. I'm actually getting full pollination on all of the truss tomatoes. It's these heirloom black crims, which I've been neglecting using the Q-tip on, and it's really shown. The fruits stopped at about this level and started about this level because throughout the majority of those flowers, I just missed the pollination on them. I've lost a lot of fruit because of that. If I turn around here, we've got the Hooch buckets. Now the Hooch buckets are doing really well. I have an enormous aphid infestation at the moment, and the reason I removed all the fruits, and I'm going to come through and remove a lot of the capsicums which are all over these bell cap plants, is because I'm going to come through with Confidor and hit all of these plants just to get rid of this infestation. And because it's got a withholding period of 5 days, I don't want to touch anything in this greenhouse at least past that withholding period. I don't have any problem with using that pesticide purely because this is a closed system. There is no entrance or exit for pollinators, so I won't be affecting anything other than the nasties that I have in here. I haven't seen any beneficials inside my greenhouse. The way that these aphids got in is trails of ants. I've had ants bringing the aphids into the greenhouse, carrying them in and planting them on my plants, and it's become a real problem. So I'm actually going around the outside of the perimeter of this greenhouse with an insecticide. They'll sit on the ground or create a barrier for the ants so they cannot get into the greenhouse and deposit their aphid friends all over my plants. It seems to only be affecting the bell caps and the eggplants over here. I've also got some whitefly on the eggplants, which will be knocked out by the Confidor, but these are also infested with the aphids. I've had a pretty bad pollination rate with the middle section of these eggplants as well, which correlates exactly to the heirloom tomatoes, and that's because I wasn't coming along and pollinating them. I can see the distinct difference between the plants that need to be pollinated and the plants that are self-pollinated. These capsicums, I don't need to do anything. They just pollinate themselves. Whereas these eggplants, if I do not get to pollinating them, the flowers just wither and die, and I lose the opportunity to get fruit on them. And it's just such a waste of my energy growing these plants if there's not going to be a large yield of fruit from them. So when picking seed, just make sure you do pay attention to whether they're self-pollinating or they require pollination, because there's no point going through all that effort if in the end all the flowers are just going to wither and die. The NFT is going nuts. I love this system. I don't have to do anything to it. I drop the plants in when they're at a basic seedling stage with their first true leaves, and they just come through like this. At the back, I've got some pickling cucumbers. They're either pickling cucumbers or Lebanese cucumbers. I was going to use them for an upcoming system that I had planned, but then I hurt my back and I've been putting it off because there is a little bit of weight in the system. I've just been healing at the moment so that I can bring that new system idea to you. I'm so excited. It's the one I referenced earlier and I've kept a secret. The idea is fully formed. I've just got to build the system, and I've got space constraints as well. So I'm probably going to end up taking out 2 rows of the Hooch buckets just so that I can have a bit of everything throughout the greenhouse. I've got 4 rows of Hooch buckets. I only really need 2 just to keep experimenting with the system. Exciting things to come. Anyway, so that's why they're there. They were meant to be about this big when I took them out, and they've just grown to this mass of cucumber plants, and they're probably stripping the NFT of a ton of nutrients. I do need to replace that res, and I'll probably do that tomorrow when I've got some time. This cos is phenomenal. No matter what the conditions, thank you, Stephen. No matter what the conditions, it just heads up beautifully. I never have a problem with it. So that's romaine cos. Like, I love the taste too. I love the texture. It's just a fantastic lettuce. It holds its shape for ages after you remove it from the system as well. So can't recommend this lettuce enough. So I know why a lot of you are here, and it's for this. This is the Hydroponic Wasabi, and it's been doing really well. It has had some powdery mildew. I've got a time lapse for you. So let's have a look at the wasabi grow, and then we'll take off the lid and see what we've got. So I'm absolutely stoked with how the wasabi's turning out, especially in the heat of the Queensland sun. Almost as stoked as I am with how my website looks on Squarespace. How good was that segue? Squarespace enables you to build websites and online stores with access to marketing and powerful analytics. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that will allow you to create a meaningful online presence and build your business. It has features that allow you to collect donations, intuitive social sharing links, and powerful analytics so you can see who's visiting your website and what they want. I've been using Squarespace over the last couple of weeks to build my own website, and it's been extremely intuitive and easy to do myself. So if this has piqued your interest, head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and then when you're ready to launch your website, head to squarespace.com/Hoocho, which is down in the description, to get 10% off your first website or domain. So thanks for watching this episode of Hoochos. I'm gonna rob all these plants of their fruit, and then I'm gonna knock out these aphids. Happy hydroponicking, and I'll see you next time. Oh, that's a good one. Very nice.